In this video, we will be comparing two rockstar business schools in India, IIM Ahmedabad and ISB, and these two are top schools in the country, and yet they are very, very different. Whom do they take? Where do you work after these places? How much money you can make? How are the expectations different? You will get to know how to decide, and you will know what differentiates these two business schools. And based on where you are in your career right now, you will be objectively able to make a very, very strong choice. And if you're not admitted yet, let's hope you get there someday. Press subscribe to this channel so that it becomes very easy for you to catch up with these amazing videos. I'll be creating a lot of videos in times to come, right? So let's rock from here, guys. I'll be sharing facts and figures, but to support you in your decision making, I'll be sharing very strong interpretations of what those facts mean for you. I know all of you can Google the facts, so we'll be looking at interpretations of those facts and we'll be digging deeper. So let's get started with ISB. All right. So well, if you look at the class profile, if you look at this table here, ISB says that if you are between 22 to 46 years of age, I mean, if you're there at ISB, you're between 22 and 46 years based on the current statistics and based on the work experience range, and the average of this class is close to around 26 years. That means that when you're 3 years out of your undergrad and you have already set your eyes on what is next for you in your career, or maybe if you're in a current position where your current job is not what you had in mind when you started your first job out of undergrad, or maybe when you went to your college. Like if you're like me, I chose my undergrad major randomly. I enjoyed every moment of my time here. I went to Punjab Engineering College, Chandigarh, but I picked up metallurgical engineering because that was the only thing offered to me by PEC. And that college was my top choice only and only because I wanted to live in Chandigarh and manage my life independently, right? So if you have made a mistake in picking up the wrong undergrad major and 3 years out of it, you say, you know what, I think I want to make the next decision for my life. And for some of you, ISB gets started 2 years into your first job. And for the minority, even when you're in the middle management, you're very, very senior, and you realize that something is missing. Maybe you don't understand some business fundamentals, or some of you have this thing in mind where there is still an unfulfilled MBA aspiration that you could not fulfill back then. Even that category decides to go to ISB. And hey, ISB has almost 40% women. So it's a big number as compared with IIM Ahmedabad. I'll get to that. Now ISB has a big class which is roughly 900 people spread across Hyderabad and Mohali campuses, and they have an average GMAT score of 710. So while you're there at ISB, you can expect to have an age gap of 24 years. So you can expect to have somebody who is 24 years elder or younger to you in the same class. And I personally respect that, as I think that age is a very, very important factor in diversity as well. See, if you're getting opportunities to discuss cases with someone who's very experienced, this is a great experience in itself. You know what I mean? Like similarly, if you're somebody who is very experienced and you finished your college 20 years ago, and you get to have somebody in your study group who's only 2 to 3 years out of college, or somebody who has only 3 years of work experience. They're not kids, by the way. They're really smart kids doing great things in life and studying in top school of the country, right? Now, with the Indian mindset of how we used to look at professions as engineers versus non-engineers, at least a lot of us looked at life like that back then. Even now, ISB has 33% of the class from non-engineering pool. So you will see roughly 300 people from commerce, business, arts, medicine, and other diverse backgrounds studying at ISB, right? Now, let's look at IIM Ahmedabad. So while ISB believed in throwing the entire study group together and making different age groups and people with significant experience, differences in work experience sit together in the same class, IIM Ahmedabad has a completely different strategy, and IIM Ahmedabad divides these two people into separate categories, and it has two different programs. One is the regular 2-year MBA program meant for freshers or maybe people with 1 to 2 years of work experience, and then you have the PGPX program, which is meant for the experienced professionals, and that program goes on for 1 year. Now let's start with looking at PGPX. Let's see how the class profile looks like. Well, they have 140 people in total, and they have an average GMAT score of 702. Now let's look at this data here. If you look at the statistics, it's a small class size and you get to study in small groups. That also means that you will know a lot of your classmates on the first name basis. The average age at IIM Ahmedabad is about 31 years, roughly around 31 years, 5 or 6 months here and there. And people have 9 years of average work experience, which means that for most of you who are keen on studying at IIM Ahmedabad, you're deeply set in your current industry and function. And even if you're making switches, a lot of your switch or a lot of your next job will depend on serious transferable skill sets you've gained in your previous role, in your previous job, pre-MBA. See, I mean, if you're joining another job after MBA with 10 years of pre-MBA work experience, your next job has to depend a lot on what you did before your MBA. And one thing I want to add here, the differences between ISB and IIM Ahmedabad. One thing I did not appreciate was that IIM Ahmedabad, as compared with ISB, and it's just my opinion, but the percentage of women at IIM Ahmedabad is half of what you have at ISB. And I would like to believe that it's not a bias that comes from IIM Ahmedabad, as I think they've been running a rock star business school in the country for almost 60 years at the time of making this video. But I think the gender bias out there is more representative of the percentage of women getting opportunities to study at the age of 31. I think it's that, but this is what the status quo is, and I think the declining percentage is more because of a lot of other responsibilities maybe that women have to take care of as well. I think that's the topic for another day, and I'm getting off course, but I think it's a sad reality. Engineers make up for roughly 90% of the class at IIM Ahmedabad, which means that if you come from an engineering background and are deeply grounded in your current learnings and are keen on making a significant jump in your career, and the amount of responsibility that you want to handle if you want to have a significant jump in that as well, and you want to learn amazing things about business, IIM Ahmedabad is a great place for you. Other academic backgrounds make up for 10% of the class. So if studying in a very diverse group of people can be very daunting for you, then, and if you want to have a lot of similar faces who want to climb up the corporate ladder and are primarily engineers, IIM Ahmedabad is a great place for you. And the other course at IIM Ahmedabad, the 2-year MBA course, which is also the flagship course, they take a little less than 400 people every year, and it is meant for you if you're just out of college or maybe you graduated a couple of years ago. Now, look at this mix here. Look at this mix of data, which is, Now, they have 40% freshers, which is a significant majority. And then you have another significant majority of people with less than 2 years of work experience. And then you have only 5% of people with more than 3 years of work experience doing the regular 2-year MBA program. Similarly, 75% of the class is made up of engineers. And again, as compared with ISB, IIM Ahmedabad has a quarter of its class filled by women candidates. So ISB had 40% women, and IIM Ahmedabad, the flagship program, has 25% women. Maybe, I don't know. They think that women are not qualified enough to take leadership positions. I really have no idea, but I think there's a slight gender bias there. Or maybe not enough women get more than 99th percentile on CAT. No one knows, but I think IIM Ahmedabad can do better in gender diversity. It's a very well-respected institution and has been creating leaders for almost 6 decades now. Now, I think if they want to be at par with the global standards, I think this is one area that IIM Ahmedabad can really work on, right? So this covers the class profile of who goes to each of these programs, and we saw that essentially IIM Ahmedabad believes that people with more years of work experience and the ones with less than 3 years of work experience should not study together, whereas ISB says that ISB has a more international model of creating a mix and letting the pool come together. They both have same GMAT requirements. ISB has a 710 average and IIM Ahmedabad has a 702, which is the average GMAT score. And the regular program requires CAT, which is I think we have a yearly festival in India where 250,000 people roughly take CAT every year. It's a very competitive test. I have another video coming up on CAT versus GMAT, not in this video, but I have a dedicated video for that.